When I was 14, I planned my wedding.
This one's wife, Charles, orders divorce. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. This one's wife is terrified King Charles may replicate Queen Elizabeth's tactic when it comes to splitting up marriages that the monarch hates. Sources have explained that the Diva Duchess is petrified that Charles will use divorce as a bribery card and tell Harry he has to split with her if he wants to get back in the royal family. A source said she firmly believes the royals are scheming to drive a wedge between her and Harry. 5 years after this one's wife and Harry's dramatic exit from royal duties, a tentative reconciliation between the Duke and King Charles appears to be underway. But this one's wife now fears she should become collateral damage in the deal. Insiders explained that she believes the palace may be planning to bring Harry back into the fold while pushing her out, much as Queen Elizabeth did when orchestrating the divorce of Prince Charles and Diana, Princess of Wales. In December 1995, Elizabeth, with consultation from the Archbishop of Canterbury and Prime Minister John Major, sent letters to Charles and Diana urging that divorce was desirable, effectively marking the end of their marriage. Buckingham Palace confirmed the Queen's instruction shortly after Diana's infamous BBC Panorama interview, leading within months to their official separation and eventual divorce. Now, close confidants of the Duchess of Sussex claim this one's wife fears a similar scenario may be unfolding. The panic began after a July 12th meeting at the Royal Overseas League in London, where Charles's communications secretary, Toby Andrea, met with Harry's senior UK advisors Meredith Maines and Liam Maguire, marking a low-key but significant breakthrough in stalled relations. A source said this one's wife knows it's wise for them to rebuild ties with the royals, but the pace of it all has left her rattled. She feels like things are slipping out of her hands, especially now that Harry's calling the shots without checking in with her the way he once did. She's afraid the royals are trying to win Harry back while sidelining her in the process. She's made it clear to him that he has to respect their partnership and not shut her out of these decisions. Harry has publicly expressed a desire to reconcile with his father. The desperate Duke, said to be gagging to get back to his old life in the UK, going to bonkers night spot and abracadabra, within the folds of the firm, said about the king who's dying from cancer, he won't speak to me, but it would be nice to reconcile. He also previously stated he wanted his father and brother Prince William back in his life, lamenting, it never needed to be this way. This one's wife is very uneasy about Harry steering his royal family comeback talks solo, as she is so scared of a repeat of the Queen's former intervention in Charles's marriage. An insider said, Harry stepped up to handle the talks himself, partly because he knows this one's wife, despite his love for her, can be perceived as confrontational, but this whole situation is way outside her comfort zone, and she's increasingly paranoid the royals are working to break them up. Sources also say this one's wife has cautioned Harry not to agree to anything that sidelines her, especially if the palace is repeating old patterns. The insider added, she's clinging to the hope that this doesn't backfire and end with them manipulating him to turn on her. As the reconciliation process moves forward, parallels to the Queen's direct and uncompromising letter to Charles and Diana loom large. With old wounds still fresh, this one's wife's anxiety centres on whether history might repeat itself, and whether her partnership may once again be deemed expendable in service of royal repair. Well, that report comes courtesy of Radar Online and their reporter Matthew Acton. And there are a number of things to unpack there vis-a-vis the dynamics involving narcissists. As usual, I let you determine the veracity of this material, but my observations are as follows. First of all, this could be a completely invented story. The use of insiders and sources utilised to drum up interest so that there are clicks on the article and discussion about it. It's a common tactic that we have seen because, of course, Harry and this one's wife do still generate a lot of press commentary and social media observations, and therefore, with there being something of a lull in the activity of the Sussexes, this might just be a simple instance of, in effect, cobbling together ideas, making things up in order to cause people to engage. After all, Radar Online needs clicks, it needs to sell its advertising, etc. Accordingly, option 1 is it's an invented story. But what about the possibility that it is true? Might it be that, in effect, Charles is going to copy his late mother and order divorce? Well, first of all, the comparison with the situation involving Charles and Diana is not exactly the same when it comes to Harry and this one's wife. This one's wife hasn't gone on television and basically stated that an affair has been taking place. There's no suggestion of that. When the Queen issued that letter, she was basically saying, we know your marriage is over, let's get on with it, because that would be the most favourable thing to do rather than having mudslinging. There is an institution to protect. It was also pertinent, of course, because Charles was the heir to the throne, the direct heir. Harry is, as we all know, the spare and further down the line of succession. Accordingly, quite why he would order divorce when there's no suggestion necessarily that their marriage is completely on the rocks. There is repeated speculation about that, and we know, of course, the difficulties that will exist because she's a narcissist and he is in the grip of a narcissist, but that doesn't necessarily equate to it being on the rocks. Charles would naturally like to have the facade maintained of his family all being together, and therefore there is an attraction to him, for the purposes of control, to get his son to come back into the fold. And given his own absence of emotional empathy, there is a degree of credibility that if that means this one's wife, who is a thorn in the side of the royal family, being sidelined by divorce, then so be it. You might think that it's potentially a rescue mission in relation to Harry, that the royal family are in effect staging some form of intervention. I don't think that's credible. If they were to do that, they would have to wait until Harry makes a firm overture towards them, which is basically, I want out, I need your help. They are not going to seek to helicopter in to save him, because that risks rejection by him and backlash from her. Instead, he's the one that's going to have to approach the royal family and say, it's more or less over, I need your help. And at that point, they would certainly be looking to bring him back into the fold, one would imagine, and for her to be sidelined on appropriate terms. It's also important to bear in mind that Charles also wants to be seen in a popular way, and therefore he wouldn't want to be seen to be interfering in a relationship, certainly not one that hasn't been confirmed to be on its last legs. And therefore, the purposes of managing his facade, it would be less likely that he would issue such a diktat as divorce her and you can come back. Accordingly, one suspects that whilst it's a possibility that it's true that such a diktat has been issued, it's unlikely. What other considerations might there be with regard to the appearance of this story? Well, it might be the case that this is something that has been placed by this one's wife. The utilizer of PR, the individual that is prone to leaking information. It's possible that she, as a narcissist, has placed this story to smear Charles, to make him look like the villain of the piece, and for people to feel sorry for her. This would be commensurate with her status as a middle range type A narcissist. While she doesn't extensively use pity plays in the way that a middle range type B would do so, because she is middle range, she still does utilize them, just not as heavily. Accordingly, she wants the world to feel sorry for her, and Charles is painted black as a consequence, no doubt, of the silence that has been sent towards the Montecchio mansion by Charles and other members of the royal family, and the fact that he's not bailing them out if the rumoured financial pressures are correct. Accordingly, Her narcissism regards Charles as a threat to control, and to nullify that, one method would be to smear him by suggesting that he's trying to break up the marriage, that he's issuing terms, that he's bossing things around, that he's telling them how they should live their lives, and for people to then feel sorry for her. Accordingly, this report might have been generated by leaked information from this one's wife for the purposes of generating a pity play, allowing her to assert control and draw fuel from the viewers, and to smear Charles in order to get indirect control over him. A further alternative might be that this is all part of a plan to lay the ground for potential divorce. Namely, she divorces but places the blame elsewhere. It was Charles that made it happen. The only problem with this is that if Charles is ordering that there be divorce, you would think it more likely that Harry would then be the one to initiate it so that he could get back into the royal family, and this one's wife would be cast adrift. Accordingly, if she is the one who is minded to divorce, it doesn't quite make sense that then it would be Charles issuing the diktat in the terms described. And therefore, in those circumstances, it might be, of course, the cack-handed manipulations of this one's wife, trying to lay the groundwork for divorce but making it seem like it's Charles who's causing the problem, or it may well be the case that that isn't her intention. I think that less likely. I think it less likely because she doesn't think that far ahead by virtue of being a middle range type A narcissist. I think also that it's less likely because of the point that I've made with regard to the blame shifting doesn't work in that respect. I think overall that more likely it's the case that if this story is correct, and a large dose of salt may have to be taken with it, it's more likely out of all of the scenarios that I've outlined that it's the case that she as a narcissist is using this information for the purposes of a pity play and smearing. What are your thoughts, valuable viewers? Which scenario do you think is most likely? Let me know in the comments section. Do you think this is just another story that has been drummed up for the purposes of getting clicks and there's no substance to it? Do you think that it might actually be true and Charles is looking to tell them to divorce for Harry to get back into the fold? Or do you think that it's true as a consequence of leaked information from this one's wife, either by way of pity play and smearing, or as she's trying to lay the groundwork for divorcing herself? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.